Hey, Miyagi here. What you're about to see is a full-length tutorial from my synthesis and sound design masterclass. And what I'm going to do is show you how to create this sound. It's a nice, growly, dubstep bass music bass tone, and though we're going to make it from scratch, be sure and grab a free download of this patch in the links below. So we've created this synth patch in Massive. This type of sound benefits from a lot of processing as well, including a variety of third-party effects, which is something we actually focus on a lot in the masterclass. In this video, we're going to look solely at Massive. So, before we get into the patch creation, there's a couple really quick little housekeeping things to do here. One thing I'm going to do is switch the oscillator phases to restart via the gate, which will help the sound hit hard. And next, I'm going to quickly adjust the pitch bend so we have plus and minus an octave, which gives us a nice range to bend to. And I'm going to adjust the voicing in the voicing tab to mono-rotate. Now that we have that done, we can start getting into the patch. To start, we're going to set up our oscillator section. A lot of the character of this sound will actually come from the mod oscillator in Massive, so these initial settings are really just to provide harmonic density. We're going to use all three oscillators in this patch using the following wavetables. Oscillator 1 will be the modern talking wavetable, Oscillator 2 the deep throat, and Oscillator 3 the sine square. Oscillator 1 and 2 are going to provide lots of grit, but interestingly it's actually going to be Oscillator 3 that really brings the sound to life. I'll bring the levels up a little bit and we can hear the initial tone. Next we're going to adjust the pitch on Oscillator 3, dropping it an octave. This gives us a wider range of frequencies. I'm also going to quickly look for some sweet spots within the wavetables, which causes the characteristic of the sound to change drastically. Now let's add a little bit of modulation to the oscillators here. I'm just going to use one mod source to start, and that's going to be envelope 1. I'll apply it to the wavetable position of oscillator 1 and the intensity of oscillator 2. Now we're going to do one of the most important tweaks for a sound like this. We're going to bring the mod oscillator into the mix, and I'm going to use it to adjust the phase of oscillator 3. I'm going to modulate the amount by envelope 3, which I'll give a longer attack phase, no decay, and an infinite looping envelope. And I'll quickly adjust the wave of the envelope sustain to triangle 2.5. Next, I'm going to add a macro knob to the sustain loop length so that we can get a useful range of loop times for automation later on. So I'm just going to quickly add a little bit of feedback while I'm at it here. Not a huge amount, but just enough to thicken the sound. And next we're going to start tweaking our filter section. For filter 1, I'm going to choose the Daft filter type, which has a lot of analog style characteristics and will produce some nice growl when it's modulated. Let's add an envelope to that right away so we can hear a little bit more of what we're working towards. We'll take envelope 2, and we're going to give it some attack and a full sustain and a little bit of a release, and we'll have it bring the cutoff up all the way. Now let's add filter 2 into the mix. In this case, we're going to use the band reject filter, with some resonance, a 50% bandwidth, and the cutoff fairly high. I'm just going to quickly adjust the filter routing to parallel, and I'm going to send a little bit of oscillators 2 and 3 over to filter 2. Now I'm going to take a little bit of envelope 2 and I'm going to apply it to the cutoff of filter 2 as well, just to give it some motion. And I'll quickly let you hear what filter 2 is doing by itself by flicking over to it in the mix. And now I'll balance it back out with filter 1. Filter 2 is really just helping provide a little bit of grit. So to emphasize that, let's quickly send a little bit of white noise to filter 2's input, but we're going to modulate the volume of it via envelope 3, which will bring it up in the mix as well. And I'm going to bring the color up to allow some high frequencies through. So now I'm going to add a little bit of drive in the effects section here, and I'm going to place it after filter 1 to make the sound pop a bit. I'm going to drive it a fair amount, and then use envelope 3 on the wet dry to add some motion. Insert 2 will go after filter 2, and we're going to use the sample and hold effect here. As an effect, sample and hold functions sort of as a resolution degradation. And now we're going to quickly add some effects, a dimension expander and a small reverb. The dimension expander will just make the sound pop out of the speakers a little bit, and the small reverb will place it nicely in a space and make it sound slightly confined and tense. Last but not least here, I'm going to activate the EQ and use it to push some of the highs up, just to make the sound pop out a little bit more. At the end of all this, your patch should sound like this. And here it is in context again, with all of the extra processing and a beat. Now I have done a fair amount of extra processing on this. Getting big sounds in modern music really depends on your ability to use your effects well and in interesting ways. To learn more about this kind of approach, be sure and check out the Synthesis and Sound Design Masterclass. We'll go through over 10 hours of video content getting you comfortable making the sounds you want, and be sure and download this patch in the links below.